Hi, it's John here again, and what we're going to do is just a quick little exercise in helping you draw circles, elliptical shapes and curves very easily. Simple video, not long. So first of all, what we need to do is to make sure that we're able to be freely moving our arm. That's really crucial, and just relax a little bit as well. So we're going to be freely making a circular movement. So like this, just moving your arm across the paper, hardly touching the paper. Just practice it before you actually land with the circle and see if you can create a perfect circle. And don't stop once you're just stroking the paper until you know that you've got a nice curve going. We'll do that again inside. We're just going to make our arm move in a nice, and it takes practice. Don't try and make the circle in one movement and then it stop, because our stop part there will end up being flat or curved. So that's not the way to do it. We need to just go a number of times until we're happy with it. Another way of doing that is to make a square, and it's very important that you start to be able to measure your lines by eye. An easy way of making sure a thing is square is just to, if you're practicing that, is just to do some diagonals, and these two angles should be sort of similar, and then that'll make sure it's a square. In the middle of those sides, this is where we want to make our circle land. So we're going to hover over those points until we make that circle just land. I'm just missing this side, just missing that side there, so I need to move my arm out, and that's going to help you practice getting that circle right in there. Okay, let's do another one. Nice square, middle points, just get that going. Now that's the way we want to be able to do it, and eventually after some practice we're going to be able to just do small circles, larger circles, more or less perfectly. Now the other thing to do is, using the idea of a square, is to create an ellipse, which is a little bit trickier. We're going to put our centers in there and we're going to just hover over those. Doesn't matter if you miss slightly, but it's getting used to, and most of the movement is coming from my my shoulder. It's up here. So that is the movement that I'm making. The shoulder should be moving, and should be moving here. And the elbow is also moving a little bit. But let's do a larger rectangle and make that movement. And when you're happy, make it land. Now the curve, this curve here, should be flat, more or less flat at the edges. What we're not trying to do, again, put the points in the middle, is we're not ending with points at the edges. We're making that curve flat at all these points here, because the problem that can happen is you spend up two slightly different to lines where you're actually aiming at the point. We're just aiming at hovering that over the line. Okay, and eventually, and if it's a thin ellipse, we're going to make that hover as well. Now, the joy of making ellipses is that we can then create other shapes, and we're just going to look at cylinders, which we'll come on to when we're doing figure drawing. We'll need to think about our figures. Now, if you imagine a cup, or if you imagine a circle, and if that gradually turns, the ellipse gets narrower, and as we turn it up, it gets wider. So this is the advantage here. So we can do the same thing down here. We can draw another ellipse, join those corners together, and we have a cylinder. Now, a really important point, excuse me, is that this flatness that I mentioned here, we don't want to end in a point even at the bottom of a cylinder. So let's draw another one here within this frame. Just going a bit too far into that corner there. Draw another one here. See, I'm getting it angled too much there, so I need to make sure it's too flat in there. I need to make sure I've got this nice curve going around. Now what's happened with this one, and then we would simply erase the back of it to create the cylinder. And just to show this part here needs to curve in. We don't want it coming at a point. We don't want this to end up like a point. Nice thing about circles, just coming on to that, is so we're going to combine the circle now with an ellipse. And that will make our circle look more spherical. Okay, and as it gets wider towards the outside, and it gets narrower towards the middle. So it's a nice wide ellipse, and the ones going above and below these are getting wider. So what we need to, this is pretty important when we come on to drawing the head. So practice those ellipses, circles, until you can make freehand ellipses. Possibly join them up with cylinders, and the whole thing is just to help us improve our nice ability to draw circles and ellipses. Just one thing, another thing, holding the pencil. You notice I've been holding it this way. A great way is to hold it with your thumb underneath and your fingers on top, so that then your wrist isn't moving so much, and you can make sure your arm is doing the movement, and we can make much more perfect circles. What tends to happen then though is that the tip of the pencil wears out, so it's quite good that for doing shading. As the tip wears out, we can start to shade up our objects. We can even put little indentations in and create little shapes. Okay? Circles and ellipses. Practice them. Good. See you next time.